Welcome back to Making a Major. This is part 2 of the Post-Mortem for the Outland Empire, USPSA Level 2. Let's hop right into it. So, what's this one going to be a little bit about? Primarily, like, the calls I got as an RM and a few things about RMing. Okay? So, first things first. I got called to Bay 5, this stage right here that we're looking at. I got called to it to discuss penalties, right? So, basically, what happened was the way this is supposed to be shot, there's a standards exercise, or no, a speed shoot. So the WSB pretty clearly says engage either array 1 or array 2, perform a mandatory reload, then engage the other array. Okay? So, what most people did is they either shot right to left or left to right. So what I did, I shot the left array, reloaded, and then shot the right array. The barrel is here for two reasons. This is one, to be able to easily distinguish left and right arrays, so there's no weird confusion about, oh, I didn't know that was part of that array. But two, at the actual match, we had the double poppers for the shoot-off already behind the barrel. And so that's just a vision blocker. Okay, so that's kind of what people did normally. When I got called over to penalties, this is kind of what happened. Somebody shot the first 7, did a reload, shot that one, then started shooting array 2. Notice there wasn't a reload between array 1 and array 2. They reloaded in array 1 and then re-engaged array 1. Okay? That becomes very important. Some other people, they shot array 1 and then shot the big one and went, oh fuck, reloaded and then shot the other one. Okay, cool. So we got two different scenarios. The second scenario, where they shot one too many poppers, basically they just didn't do the reload at the right time. They did it between popper 9 and 10. They got one procedural for one popper. It's technically per shot, actually. But yeah, so one pretty much. For the person that, or actually the people, there were at least two that shot the first 7, reloaded, shot 8, and then shot all the rest. They got 8 procedurals. So I 8. Well, 1 per shot fired for failing to do the reload at the right time. This is rule 10.2.4. A competitor who fails to comply with a mandatory reload will incur 1 procedural penalty for each shot fired after the point where the reload was required until a reload is performed. Right? That's why the first guy got only 1 for the first popper, and that's why the other guy got 7 or 8, because 8 poppers. Now, they might have shot 15 shots at these 8 poppers, but remembering it's not double jeopardy, but the excessive penalties rule, we only apply as many penalties as there are shots available, right? That doesn't apply for no shoots, that's a whole different thing, but for these sorts of penalties, only one per popper, effectively. So some people argued about, oh, significant advantage during non-compliance of a WSB, but that's a different rule. 10.2.4 is very clear about when a reload was supposed to happen. In the WSB, it said engage array 1, then engage array 2, with a reload in between. Okay? So, some other scenarios that could have happened. Somebody could have shot 1 round at the left array, or we're just going to say left array for examples. Shot 1 round at the left array, reloaded, and then started at the right and shot all the way down. That is completely legal because they engaged 1 array, performed a reload, then engaged the other array. Okay? So I got a few calls like that. Some people got a little bit miffed about excessive penalties. They were like, oh, you're excessively penalizing what is a minor mistake. There's no significant advantage. Significant advantage does not apply. There is a specific rule for this. But for some people, well, for the 2 people specifically, and this is an important thing as an RM. You should always have an ARB form, probably a few. I prefer to offer them to upset customers because I'm in a customer service role, rather than them getting pissed and demanding an ARB form. Okay, that's important. So these people, I was like, hey, so I know you're upset about the amount of penalties you got. I know it's a 0, but I have an ARB form. If you'd like to take it, here's the time that I need that form if you want to arbitrate this. And so I offered an arbitration rather than them having to come demand one from me. And I think that's an important mindset distinction in an RM. Okay, let's talk about stage 6. Okay, so we had I talked about it in the first episode where I was talking about the DQ that wasn't a DQ. Basically what happened is shooter was probably engaging and was planning on doing a reload, pulls his hand in, fires off a shot, impacts like within a foot or two of the target, like right next to it. RO thought they were doing a reload, DQ'd him for AD during a reload. Fair is fair. I go over and, again, my purpose is not to kick people out of the match, it's to use the rulebook to try to keep them in the match. For most people, like 180s and stuff, it's cut and dry. There is no, like, I mean, they did it. The RO is like, yeah, they did it, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But for some, like this, we're talking about weird edge case DQs. So I asked the RO, and the RO goes, yeah, he was reloading, fired a round off. I'm like, cool, that's a DQ. I go to the shooter, and the things that the shooter's saying to me are like, hold on, I don't think the shooter actually started reloading. Let me go ask again. And I go to the RO, I'm like, hey, what happened with the magazine in the gun? Because a reload starts when the magazine comes out. And they go, well, he was reloading. I was like, no. Very specifically, did you see the magazine start to come out? And he goes, no. I was like, okay, it's not a DQ. Cool. So then we started talking because this was a newer RO, less experienced. I prefer to run them through a few scenarios about like what could be a DQ here, what couldn't. So we started talking about an AD during movement. Specifically, there's a part of that rule that says while not aiming at a target or while not actively aiming at a target. Like, it basically says there's a lot of leeway in that interpretation where like a round right next to a target could still be aiming at a target. Around, like, when they originally told me, they said that the shooter had engaged T2 and then did a reload to do T3, right? Or did T3 and then did a reload for T4, something like that. They originally made it sound like the rounds impacted right here, nowhere near T3. Originally. When I started asking them a little bit more, and some of the other shooters and the shooter themselves were like, hey, yeah, my round impacted like right about here. Like, we saw the dirt move, there was a plastic bag here because we had bagged the targets, or we'd pulled the bags, and they were like, oh yeah, it impacted there. Okay, so not a DQ. Pretty simple. That was just a little back and forth trying to keep people in the match. Let's talk about how much time do I have left. Ooh, okay. A little bit over time. I'm going to continue this in part 3.